The night was cold and heavy with smoke. The battlefield was silent, except for the wind that carried the smell of burning metal and ash. Broken ships lay scattered across the dark ground, their twisted parts glowing faintly with fire. Strange shadows moved between the wreckage, and somewhere among the ruins a small alien girl cried. Her voice was weak, like the sound of a bird with broken wings. She was no more than 8 years old in human years, her skin pale blue, her eyes wide and shining in the darkness. Dirt covered her face, and blood stained her small hands. She pressed her back against a broken wall of metal, trembling every time she heard a sound. All around her, monsters hunted. Their growls echoed from every direction. They were not soldiers, not machines, but creatures born from war, beasts that thrived in the dark. Their eyes glowed yellow, their teeth sharp, their claws scraping against stone. They were hungry, and they had already smelled her fear. The girl tried to stay silent. She covered her mouth with her tiny hand, but tears escaped her eyes. She whispered in her own language, a prayer she had learned from her mother, a prayer that no one would hear. Her family was gone. Her people were gone. She believed she was the last one left. The night stretched longer. Every second felt like an hour. The monsters moved closer, their growls louder now. The girl hugged her knees to her chest and closed her eyes, waiting for the end. She thought, "This is how I die, alone in the dark." But then, another sound reached her ears. It was not the growl of a beast. It was not the hiss of fire. It was heavy, steady. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate, strong, crunching against the broken ground. The girl froze. Her heart pounded in her chest. She peeked through a crack in the broken wall, her breath shaking. At first, she thought it was another monster, something worse than the rest. But then she saw the shape. Tall, broad shoulders, armor scratched and covered with dust. A figure walking upright, not crawling like a beast. A weapon strapped across his back, and when he stepped into the weak light of a burning ship, she saw his face. A human. Her eyes widened. She had heard stories of humans. Some called them saviors, others called them killers. She did not know which one this man was. But here he was, in the middle of the battlefield, alive when no one else had survived. The human stopped. His eyes scanned the ruins, sharp and watchful. He carried his rifle in one hand, ready to fight. His breathing was heavy, but steady, like a soldier who had seen many battles before. The girl's hands shook. She did not know if she should call out or stay hidden. She feared the monsters. She feared the human too. But as she stayed silent, one of the creatures growled close, too close. The human turned his head. His eyes locked on the shadows where the girl was hiding. He raised his weapon, moving closer, careful and quiet. The girl gasped softly, and her cover was gone. For a moment, their eyes met, hers full of fear, his full of something else, something hard, but not cruel. The human lowered his weapon just a little. Behind him, the sound of claws scraping stone filled the air. The monsters had caught the scent. Their yellow eyes glowed in the dark, one by one, like stars appearing in the night sky. The human stepped forward, closer to the girl. He did not shout, he did not move fast. Instead, he knelt down, pulling a small metal flask from his belt. Slowly, he pushed it across the ground toward her. The girl looked at the flask, then at him. Her throat was dry, her body was weak. She wanted to drink, but her fear held her still. The human spoke, his voice low and rough. Water, drink, quiet. Simple words. She understood enough. She reached out with trembling fingers, took the flask and drank. The water was warm, but to her, it tasted like life itself. The human watched her. He kept one eye on the shadows, one hand on his weapon. Then, from the darkness, a roar broke out. The monsters had arrived. Their shapes moved fast, their claws striking the ground. The girl cried out and dropped the flask. The human stood tall in front of her, raising his rifle. His voice was calm, but firm. "Stay behind me." The girl pressed against the wall, her tiny body shaking. She could see the beasts crawling closer, their teeth shining. She could see the human's back, broad and unmoving. He was outnumbered. He was alone, but he did not step back. And in that moment, for the first time in her short life, the girl felt something strange. She felt hope. The ruins were quiet again, but not for long. The echo of the monster's growls faded into the distance, yet their presence lingered in the girl's mind like a shadow that refused to leave. She stayed behind the human, trembling, her small hands gripping the edges of the broken wall. The human did not move immediately. He stood tall, scanning the battlefield with eyes that had seen too much. The smoke drifted around him, and the faint light of burning wreckage cast sharp lines across his face. His armor was scratched, dented and marked with old battles. He looked like a man who had fought death many times and yet somehow had survived again and again. The girl's heart raced. She did not know what he would do next. Would he leave her behind? Would he hurt her? Humans were not part of her world. She had heard whispers from her people. Humans are dangerous. Do not trust them. But this human had not raised his weapon against her. He had given her water. For a long moment, he simply watched her. His expression was unreadable, but his eyes carried a strange weight, something heavy but not cruel. Finally, he spoke, his voice deep and steady. "You are safe, for now." The girl blinked, trying to understand. His words were simple, but his tones, he was strong, like iron that could not be broken. She whispered back, her voice shaking, "Monsters, they will come back." The human nodded once. "Yes, they always do." He looked over his shoulder, scanning the darkness, then crouched down to her level. He was huge compared to her tiny frame, but when he knelt, his presence softened. He reached into a pouch on his belt and pulled out a small thermal blanket. Slowly, carefully, he wrapped it around her shoulders. The warmth surprised her. She had expected harshness, not kindness. She looked up at him with wide, uncertain eyes. Why help me?" she asked. The human's jaw tightened. He looked past her, into the distance, as if he was remembering something far away. Then he answered in a low voice, "Because no child should be left alone in the dark." The words struck her heart. For a moment, she almost forgot the monsters. She felt the weight of loss again. Her parents, her people, everything she had loved burned and broken on this battlefield. Her eyes filled with tears. The human noticed, but he did not tell her to stop crying. He only shifted closer, placing himself between her and the open path where the monsters might appear again. Then the sound returned. A scrape of claws against metal, a low growl echoing across the ruins. The girl gasped, clutching the blanket tightly. The human raised his rifle again, every movement calm and practiced. His eyes narrowed. He whispered almost to himself, "They're circling back." The girl shook her head. "We cannot fight them. Too many." But the human did not answer. He placed one finger to his lips, signaling her to stay quiet. Then he moved slowly, step by step, guiding her away from the broken wall toward the cover of a half-collapsed building. His steps were careful, measured. He moved like a predator, silent and alert. The girl followed close behind, her tiny feet barely making a sound. Her eyes darted left and right, expecting yellow eyes to shine from the dark at any moment. Inside the ruined building, the air was cooler. The walls still stood, though cracked and broken. The human motioned for her to sit in a corner. She obeyed, curling into herself. He positioned himself near the entrance, rifle steady, his silhouette like a stone statue guarding the weak. Minutes passed like hours. The growls came and went, closer and then farther as the beasts searched the ruins. The girl hugged the blanket tight, afraid to breathe too loudly. In the silence, she studied the human. His face was rough, marked with scars. His armor carried scratches that told stories she could not imagine. He did not shake. He did not panic. He looked like someone who had carried fear so many times that it no longer ruled him. Finally, she whispered, so quietly that even the wind could barely hear. "What is your name?" The human did not look at her. His eyes remained on the shadows. After a moment, he replied, "Call me, whatever you like." She frowned, confused. "No name?" He hesitated, then said, "Names are for when you are safe. Out here, names don't matter. Survival does." The words were heavy, but they also carried truth. She nodded slowly, though she still did not understand everything. Another silence stretched between them. Then, without warning, a sharp roar shook the ruins. The monsters were close again, too close. The girl flinched, pressing her hands to her ears. The human lowered his stance, his rifle aimed toward the sound. The first beast appeared in the doorway, its yellow eyes burning in the dark. The human fired once. The shot echoed like thunder. The beast fell. Another growl came from the side wall. Another beast clawed its way through. The human turned, firing again, each movement swift, precise, unshaken. The girl screamed, covering her face. She had never seen such violence up close. She expected the monsters to win, to tear them apart. But the human stood firm, fighting like one. Against many. His voice rang out over the gunfire, calm but commanding. "Stay low! Don't move!" The girl obeyed, though her heart pounded so hard she thought it would burst. The monsters retreated into the dark, leaving silence once more. The human lowered his weapon, his breath heavy now, his shoulders tense. He turned to the girl, his face lit by the faint glow of fire outside. "We can't stay here," he said. "They'll keep coming." The girl swallowed hard, nodding. She rose to her feet, still clutching the blanket, still trembling. For the first time, she stepped closer to him on her own. She whispered, "Then, I will follow you." The human looked at her for a long moment. Then he gave a small, almost invisible nod. "Good," he said. "Stay close. Don't fall behind." And with that, the two strangers, one human, one alien child, stepped out into the ruined night together, hunted by monsters, but bound now by something fragile, something new. Hope. The night was never silent for long. Even as the human and the little alien girl moved through the ruins, the low growls returned, carried on the wind like whispers of doom. The monsters were following. They were patient hunters, and they were hungry. The human led the way, his boots crunching over broken stone. The girl followed close behind, her small hand clutching the edge of his armor, as if letting go would mean death. Her eyes darted at every shadow, every flicker of fire. "Keep moving," the human said quietly, his voice calm but firm. "Do not look back." But she could not help herself. She glanced over her shoulder and her heart froze. In the distance, yellow eyes glowed in the dark. Many eyes. They blinked in and out, moving closer, always closer. The girl gasped, "They are coming." The human did not turn. "I know." He kept his weapon ready, scanning the path ahead. The ruins stretched endlessly, jagged met, all rising like broken teeth. The air was thick with smoke. Every path looked the same, yet he moved with certainty, like a man who had walked through hell before. The girl's legs trembled. Her body was weak, but fear pushed her forward. Each growl felt louder. Each scrape of claws on stone sounded closer. The monsters were closing the circle. Suddenly, one of them leapt from the shadows. A massive beast, twice the size of the girl, its body covered in dark scales, its teeth long and dripping. It landed in front of them with a roar that shook the ground. The girl screamed and stumbled back. The human stepped forward without hesitation. He raised his rifle and fired. The shot cracked through the night, striking the beast in the chest. It howled, staggering, but it did not fall. Instead, it charged. "Run!" the human shouted. The girl obeyed, darting behind a broken wall, her tiny legs moving as fast as they could. She pressed herself against the rubble, too scared to breathe. From her hiding place, she peeked out. The human stood his ground. The beast lunged at him, claws slashing through the air. He rolled aside, firing again. Sparks flew as bullets tore into the monster's flesh. It roared in fury, swinging its massive tail. The human was thrown against the wall, his armor denting with the impact. The girl covered her mouth to keep from crying out. She wanted to run, but her heart would not let her leave him. The human rose quickly, weapon still in hand. His face was grim, his eyes sharp. He fired again and again until finally the beast collapsed with a final growl, its body twitching before it lay still. For a moment, silence returned. Then the silence broke. Dozens of growls echoed from every direction. The girl's blood ran cold. She saw them now, shapes moving on the rooftops, crawling on the walls, slinking between the shadows. Yellow eyes everywhere. They were surrounded. The human ran to her side. His breathing was heavy, but his voice remained steady. "We stand here. No choice." The girl's eyes widened. "We cannot win. Too many." The human glanced at her, his expression unreadable. "Winning is not the goal. Surviving is." He pulled her behind him, placing her in the safest corner he could find. Then he took position, rifle aimed at the dark. His finger rested steady on the trigger. The first wave came. 3 beasts rushed from the left, claws scraping the ground. The human fired in quick bursts, each shot striking true. 2 fell, but the third lunged past him, heading straight for the girl. Her scream pierced the night, but the human moved faster. Dropping his rifle, he pulled a knife from his belt and charged. He slammed into the beast, dragging the blade across its throat. Hot blood splashed the ground as the creature collapsed at his feet. The girl stared in shock. She had never seen such fury, such strength. To her, he was no longer just a man. He was something more, something unstoppable. But the battle was far from over. The monsters kept coming. One after another, they poured into the ruins. The human fought with everything he had, his rifle spitting fire, his knife flashing in the dark. Each time he fell, he rose again. Each time he bled, he kept fighting. The girl pressed herself into the corner, shaking. She felt useless, powerless, but then she remembered the tiny spark inside her, the gift of her people. She raised her small hands, and for the first time, light flickered from her palms. It was weak, only a glow, but it was enough. The nearest beasts hissed and shrieked, their eyes burning in the sudden brightness. The human glanced back, surprised, but he gave a sharp nod. "Good, keep it up." The girl pushed harder, her light growing brighter, pushing the darkness back inch by inch. It drained her strength, but she refused to stop. Together they fought, one with steel and fire, the other with fragile light. Finally, the growls faded. The surviving monsters slew. NK back into the shadows, snarling but unwilling to face the human's blade or the girl's light. Silence returned once more. The human dropped to one knee, his chest, rising and falling with exhaustion. Blood stained his armor, his breath ragged, but his eyes were alive, sharp and unbroken. The girl collapsed beside him, her light fading. She was pale and trembling, but she looked at him with something new in her eyes. Not fear. Trust. You saved me, she whispered. The human wiped his knife clean and sheathed it. He gave her a tired smile, small but real. And you saved me too, he said. For the first time since the night began, the girl let herself smile, just a little. The monsters were not gone. The night was not safe. But in that moment, surrounded by ruins and death, two strangers had become something more. They were survivors, together. The ruins were quiet again, but it was not peace. It was the silence that came after violence, when the ground still smelled of blood and smoke, when the air still carried the echo of roars and gunfire. The human sat against a wall, his shoulders heavy, his armor scratched and stained with dark red. His chest rose and fell in slow, tired breaths. His rifle lay across his lap, still warm from battle. Beside him, the little alien girl curled up under the blanket he had given her. Her body trembled, not from the cold, but from exhaustion. The glow she had summoned to drive away, the monsters had drained her strength. She leaned against the wall, eyes half closed, watching him. For a long time, neither spoke. Finally, the girl whispered, her voice soft and unsure. Why did you not leave me? The human's eyes stayed fixed on the ruins beyond. His jaw tightened. He seemed to think for a long moment before answering. His voice was low, almost like he was speaking to himself. Because no child should face the dark alone. The words hung in the air. The girl's chest ached. She thought of her family, her mother's gentle hands, her father's strong voice, all gone now, lost to war. She had thought she was the last, that no one cared if she lived or died. But this human, this stranger, had chosen to fight for her. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. You are not like the stories. The human finally turned to look at her. His face was worn, marked with scars, his eyes shadowed by battles she could not imagine. What stories? He asked. Her voice shook as she replied. My people said, humans are dangerous, that you destroy, that you take what is not yours. She lowered her head. I was told to fear you. The human was silent for a moment. Then he gave a small, humorless laugh. They were not wrong. The girl looked up, startled. He sighed, his gaze distant. Humans do destroy. We fight. We take. We burn. But we also protect. We endure. We choose. His eyes softened just a little. Tonight, I choose to protect you. The girl's lips trembled. She did not know what to say. She had expected anger, cruelty, maybe even death, but instead, she found something else, something she had never seen in any human before. Kindness. The fire from the wreckage outside cast a faint glow across the wall, painting their shadows together. The girl shifted closer, wrapping the blanket tighter around herself. She spoke in a small voice. Do you have a child? The question caught him off guard. His eyes hardened, then lowered. For a moment, he said nothing. The silence stretched, heavy with memory. Finally, he answered. Once, he said. Just one word, but his tone carried a lifetime of pain. The girl's heart sank. She wanted to ask more, but she saw the look in his eyes and stopped. Some wounds were too deep to touch. Still, she whispered, I am sorry. The human gave a slow nod, as if he accepted her small comfort. Then he reached into his pouch again and pulled out a small pack. From it, he offered her dried food, something simple, something a soldier would carry. Eat, he said. She hesitated, then took it. The taste was strange, but it filled the emptiness in her stomach. She ate slowly, glancing at him between each bite. When she finished, she looked at him with wide, shining eyes. Thank you. The human leaned his head back against the wall, closing his eyes for a moment. Don't thank me yet. The night is not over. But the girl smiled faintly, just for a second. She felt something she had not felt since the war began, something she thought she had lost forever. Hope. The ruins groaned as the wind shifted. Somewhere in the distance, a monster howled. The sound made her shiver, but she was not alone anymore. She pulled the blanket around her and pressed closer to him. The human opened one eye and glanced at her. For a moment, he looked like he might tell her to move away, to keep distance, but instead, he said nothing. He let her stay. Her small hand rested against his arm, and though his armor was cold, she felt safe. The night dragged on, but within the broken walls of that ruin, a fragile bond began to grow. It was not trust born of words or promises. It was trust born of action, of standing between her and death, of choosing to fight when it would have been easier to walk away. The girl closed her eyes at last, her breathing soft and slow. Sleep came for her, though fear lingered at the edges of her dreams. The human stayed awake, his rifle close, his eyes sharp. He listened to every sound, every distant growl. His body ached, his heart heavy, but he kept watch. And in that silence, as the stars burned faintly above the smoke-filled sky, something unspoken passed between them. Two strangers, once enemies by blood and history, now bound by survival. Trust had been born, not perfect, not complete, but enough to carry them through the dark. Dawn never came quickly on this world. The sky was still heavy with smoke, and the faint red glow of burning wreckage was the only light. The human rose first, stretching his tired limbs. His armor creaked, his face rough with exhaustion. But his eyes were steady. He had not slept. The little alien girl stirred under the blanket. She blinked, confused for a moment, then remembered where she was, the ruins, the monsters, the stranger who had stood between her and death. She sat up slowly, hugging the blanket close. The human offered her a hand. She hesitated, then placed her small fingers in his rough palm. He pulled her gently to her feet. "We move now," he said. His voice was quiet, but firm, like a man used to giving orders. Staying means death. The girl nodded, though her legs still trembled. She clutched the edge of his armor again as they stepped out into the ruins. The battlefield stretched endlessly before them. Towers of metal lay broken, ships torn apart, the ground scarred by fire. The smell of smoke and ash clung to the air, thick and bitter. Every shadow seemed alive. Every distant sound felt like a warning. The human walked with steady steps, scanning the ground and the skyline. He moved like a soldier who knew danger was always near. The girl followed close, her eyes wide, taking in the devastation. She whispered softly, "This was my home." The human glanced at her but said nothing. He only adjusted the rifle on his shoulder and kept walking. As they moved, the girl noticed pieces of her past scattered among the ruins. A broken toy half buried in ash. A small flag burned at the edges. The cracked walls of what was once a school. Each sight pierced her heart like a blade. She slowed near the toy, bending to pick it up. Her small hands brushed the dirt away. It was a tiny figure carved from stone, its face smiling despite the cracks. Tears filled her eyes. The human stopped, watching her. His face softened, though he did not speak. He understood that silence carried more respect than words. The girl tucked the toy into the blanket wrapped around her. She straightened and hurried to his side again. "I will keep it," she whispered, "so I do not forget." The human gave a small nod. "Good." They pressed on. The ruins shifted as the wind blew, carrying strange sounds, metal groaning, glass shattering, whispers of claws against stone. The girl shivered. "Are they following us?" The human's jaw tightened. "Always." He guided her carefully through narrow passages, over broken walls, through the skeletons of buildings long destroyed. At times, the ground shook with distant roars. At times, the silence was worse than the noise. Hours passed, though it felt longer. The girl grew tired, her legs dragging. The human noticed and crouched down. "Climb." She blinked at him. "What?" "On my back. You are slowing." Her face turned red with embarrassment, but her body was too weak to argue. Carefully, she climbed onto his back, her arms wrapping around his neck. His armor was cold, but his presence was solid, steady. He carried her without complaint, his steps strong, his breathing controlled. To her, it felt like being carried by a mountain. From this higher view, she saw more of the battlefield. She saw broken machines the size of houses, their metal frames still glowing. She saw bones, too many to count. She saw skies painted with smoke and ash. And yet she also saw something else. The human's steady march forward, his refusal to stop, his strength carrying her where she could not go alone. For the first time, She felt less like a burden, more like someone worth saving. They reached a ridge where the ground opened into a wide plain of ruins. From there, the girl spotted something strange, a faint flicker of light, not fire, but something different. She tugged at the human's shoulder. "Look, over there!" He followed her gaze. The flicker was faint, hidden behind twisted towers of metal, but it pulsed in a rhythm, not natural, not random. The human narrowed his eyes. "A signal." Her heart leapt. "Rescue?" He did not answer at once. His face was hard, his thoughts calculating. Could be rescue. Could be Tro. But the girl's excitement dimmed. "Trap?" He nodded. "War leaves many liars behind." Still, he changed direction, moving toward the flicker. His grip on his rifle tightened, every muscle ready. The path down the ridge was steep, filled with sharp rocks and broken beams. He lowered her to the ground, guiding her carefully. "Stay close. Do not run, no matter what." The girl swallowed hard and nodded. As they descended, the growls returned, faint but growing. The monsters had not given up. They never gave up. The human quickened his pace, keeping her close at his side. The signal light grew brighter as they approached, blinking steadily, like a heartbeat in the ruins. Finally, they reached the source. It was an old beacon, half buried in rubble, its metal dented and scarred, but it still worked, sending out weak pulses of light into the sky. The girl's eyes filled with hope. "They will see it! Someone will come!" The human's face remained grim. He studied the beacon, scanning the shadows around it. His instincts screamed caution. "We wait," he said, "but stay ready." The girl's hope flickered, but she obeyed. She sat beside him, clutching her stone toy, watching the beacon blink. The ruins stretched around them, silent for now, but full of unseen eyes. The human kept his rifle steady, his body tense. He did not trust the light, but he knew one thing. Whatever came next, he would not face it alone, and neither would she. The beacon pulsed in the darkness, its weak light rising into the smoky sky like a desperate cry for help. The little alien girl sat beside it, clutching her stone toy tight, her eyes full of fragile hope. But the human did not relax. He stood tall, rifle in hand, his sharp eyes scanning the ruins around them. His instincts screamed danger. Hope was a trap if you trusted it too soon. The wind shifted. The girl felt it too, the heavy silence. And that always came before the monsters. She looked at him, her voice trembling. "They are close." The human nodded once. "Too close." And then the growls began. At first, faint. Then louder, spreading through the ruins like a wave of death. The shadows moved. Dozens of yellow eyes lit up in the dark, circling the beacon. The monsters had been waiting, watching, hunting. Now they closed in. The girl gasped, pulling the blanket tighter around herself. "There are so many!" The human's voice was calm, though his grip tightened on the rifle. "Stay low. Do not move unless I tell you." The first beast lunged from the rubble, teeth bared. The human fired, the gunshot echoing like thunder. The creature dropped, but more followed. Claws scraped stone, tails whipped the air, snarls filled the night. The girl pressed herself against the beacon, her small body trembling. She wanted to close her eyes, but she could not look away. The human stood against them all, a single figure in the storm. He fought with precision, every shot hitting its mark. But there were too many. For every beast that fell, two more came crawling from the shadows. His rifle clicked empty. Without hesitation, he drew his knife. The blade gleamed in the faint light as he charged into the swarm. He moved like a storm, fast, brutal, unyielding. Each strike was a promise, each step a refusal to fall. The girl's heart raced. She wanted to scream, to cry, but she also felt something else, something stronger. She felt the fire of his courage, and it lit a spark inside her. The monsters roared as they surrounded him, claws slashing, jaws snapping. He fought, but blood ran down his arms, staining his armor. He stumbled once, then rose again. The girl couldn't take it anymore. She stood, her small hands glowing faintly with the light of her people. Her knees shook, but she shouted, her voice breaking, "Leave him alone!" The glow burst brighter, a wave of pale light spreading across the ruins. The nearest beasts shrieked, clawing at their eyes. The human glanced back, surprised but gone. Of her a sharp nod. "Good! Do not stop!" he called. Her glow wavered, but she pushed harder, every ounce of her strength pouring into the light. The monsters snarled, blinded, but they kept coming. The human fought beside the glow, his knife slashing, his fists striking. He was bleeding, exhausted, but he refused to fall. The girl's vision blurred. Her body screamed to stop, but her heart would not let her. She remembered her family, her people, all who had fallen. She would not let the darkness take him too. The monsters shrieked louder, furious now. One leapt past the light, its claws aimed at the girl. She froze, too weak to move. The human saw it. With a roar, he threw himself between her and the beast, his blade plunging deep into its chest. The impact drove him to the ground, the beast's weight crushing him. The girl screamed, "No!" She crawled to him, tears burning her eyes. The beast twitched, then lay still. The human groaned, shoving the heavy body off. His armor was torn, his face pale, but his eyes still burned with fire. He forced himself to his knees, then to his feet, standing once more between her and the horde. Blood dripped from his side, but he raised his blade. His voice was rough but strong. Not today, not her. The girl's glow flared again, brighter than ever. The ruins lit up with pale light, burning into the monster's eyes. They shrieked, stumbling back, their circle breaking. The human staggered forward, striking the last beast that dared to come close. His blade cut true, his roar echoing across the battlefield. And then, silence. The monsters, blinded and broken, slunk back into the shadows. Their growls faded into the night, leaving only the sound of heavy breathing and the faint pulse of the beacon. The human dropped to one knee, his strength nearly gone. The girl ran to him, wrapping her small arms around his neck, tears fell all down her cheeks. "You cannot die," she whispered. "Not now, not after you saved me." He gave a faint smile, though his face was pale. "I am not dead yet." His hand rested gently on her shoulder. "Because you stood with me." The girl shook her head, crying harder. "I am small, I am weak." "No," he said firmly, his voice steady despite his pain. "You are strong, stronger than you know. You did not run. You faced the dark. That is strength." Her sobs softened. She pressed her forehead against his armor, clinging to him. Above them, the beacon still pulsed. Its light stretched higher now, reaching through the smoke. Somewhere far away, perhaps, someone would see. But for now, in this ruined place, surrounded by death, a human and an alien child had stood together against the monsters. And together, they had not fallen. The ruins were quiet. The monsters had gone, their growls fading into the endless dark. Only the faint pulse of the beacon and the crackle of distant fires broke the silence. The human knelt in the rubble, his breath heavy, his body trembling from wounds and exhaustion. His armor was torn, stained with blood, but his eyes were still alive, sharp, unbroken. Beside him, the little alien girl clung to his arm. Her small body shook with both fear and relief, but her light had not faded completely. A faint glow still lingered in her hands, a reminder of her courage. For a long moment, they simply breathed together, survivors in a world of death. Finally, the girl whispered, her voice soft as a trembling leaf. We lived." The human gave a faint nod. "Yes, we did." She looked at him, her eyes wet with tears. "But you are hurt. You cannot walk far." He tried to stand, his body groaning in protest. For a moment he wavered, then forced himself upright. His voice was rough but steady. "I can still walk. We move until help comes." The girl shook her head, clutching his hand tightly. "No, you saved me. I will not let you fall now." Her words struck him deeper than any wound. He looked down at her, this fragile child who had lost everything, yet still stood beside him. Something stirred in his chest, something he thought had died long ago. Hope. They stayed near the beacon as the night dragged on. Each pulse of its weak light was a promise, a call to the stars. The girl sat beside him, holding her stone toy close, whispering small prayers in her language. The human listened in silence, his rifle resting across his knees. He kept his eyes on the horizon, watching for either salvation or more monsters. Hours passed. The smoke began to thin. A faint glow touched the sky. Not fire this time, but dawn. The first light of morning broke through the clouds of ash, painting the ruins in pale gold. The girl gasped softly, her eyes wide. "It is beautiful." The human followed her gaze. He had seen many dawns, but few had ever felt like this. This one meant survival. This one meant another chance. Then, in the distance, a new sound reached their ears. A deep hum, steady and growing louder. The girl's heart leapt. She stood quickly, pointing to the sky. "Look, ships!" The human raised his eyes. Through the smoke he saw them, small rescue crafts breaking through the clouds, their lights bright against the morning sky. The beacon had worked. The girl clapped her hands together, tears spilling down her cheeks. "They are coming! We are saved!" The human did not smile, but his shoulders relaxed for the first time. Still, he did not lower his weapon. "Stay close. Rescue is never simple." The ships descended, their engines roaring. Dust swirled as they landed in the ruins. Soldiers poured out, armored and armed, scanning the area. Their eyes widened when they saw the human, bloodied, battered, standing tall with an alien child at his side. The girl pressed closer to him, gripping his hand. For a moment, fear filled her eyes again. Would these soldiers take her away? Would they see her as an enthusiast? Mai? The human felt her trembling and squeezed her hand gently. His voice was calm, firm. Do not be afraid. I am here. The soldiers approached cautiously. Their commander stepped forward, helmet under his arm. He stared at the sight before him, one human survivor protecting a small alien child. What happened here? The commander asked. The human's voice was rough but steady. War, monsters, death. He looked down at the girl, then back at the commander. But she lives. That is enough. The commander studied them for a long moment, then he nodded. Bring them aboard. Relief washed over the girl. She clung to the human as the soldiers guided them to the ship. For the first time, she felt the promise of safety. Inside the ship, medics rushed to treat the human's wounds. He resisted at first, but the girl insisted, her small voice fierce. Help him first. He saved me. The medics obeyed. As they worked, the girl sat beside him, never letting go of his hand. She whispered softly, so only he could hear. You are my monster slayer. The human closed his eyes, a tired smile touching his lips. No, we slew them together. The ship lifted into the sky, leaving the broken battlefield behind. Below them, the ruins burned, the monsters hidden once more in the shadows. But above, the dawn spread wider, brighter, promising a future beyond fear. The girl leaned against the human, her small body finally relaxing. For the first time, she allowed herself to dream of tomorrow. And the human, scarred and weary, felt something he had not felt in years. He felt human again. Because in a galaxy full of monsters, the greatest strength was not destruction, it was protection. And on that ruined world, a human had proven it.